Alright, welcome to another episode of the Middle Aged Metalhead. Today we're going to be talking about a few classic rock albums and a couple of metal albums, but what makes them special is that these are Indian pressings, vintage Indian pressings from the 70s and 80s. Now, a lot of that was done by the Gramophone Company of India, which was basically set up by the British sometime in the early 1900s, and with their own pressing plant in this area called Dum Dum in Calcutta. And I'm going to start off with a couple of records from my dad's collection, just a couple of albums that I grew up with. So, firstly, Elton John's classic Honky Chateau, and as you can see, dad's name right there in big capital letters, which was pretty common back in the day, I think. No one really considered Discogs goldmine rating, and it was just a way of making sure that everyone knew this was your record. And I also think um lending your records was completely normal at that time, much like how lending cassettes was when I was in high school and college. And so it was, yeah, completely normal to not just sign your name, but also put little messages on the record itself. This one says, handle with care or I'll break your head. And if we look at the center label, this one has the HMV center label from 1972. So if we look at that, and look at that, his master's voice. Just, yeah, a really classic album. I mean, what can you say about this one? Had Jean-Luc Ponty on the violin as well. Had, of course, the title song, I Think I'm Going to Kill Myself, Rocket Man, an absolute classic, and overall just something that I grew up with and played a lot more than you would say, yeah, maybe the Beatles come close, which I haven't actually bothered to pull out. But yeah, this is an album that I absolutely loved growing up. And Rocket Man is a song that still gets a lot of playtime. Next up, another childhood favorite, slightly more on the rock side this time. This is the first Deep Purple album, Shades of Deep Purple, the Gramophone Company of India, again in manufactured in Calcutta in their Dum Dum pressing plant. And another album that I absolutely loved growing up. You know, I know this isn't a particularly popular album among hardcore Deep Purple fans. It's Rod Evans on vocals, and this is the Mac One lineup. And but it has Hush, which I absolutely love. Of course, it also has a bunch of covers like Help and I'm So Glad. But yeah, this is just one of those albums that I absolutely love. This one has the Parlophone center label there, as you can see, and just a fantastic childhood memory, an album that I still go back to every now and then. Now, this one I actually got recently, and it came with a very nice bonus that I was really thrilled about. This is the Indian pressing of Deep Purple's Machine Head. Again, the Gramophone Company of India and Dum Dum. And of course, for whatever reason, the most of the Gramophone Company of India pressings, at least as far as I know, didn't do gatefolds. Like I have an original pressing of this as well, somewhere on top there, and that's a gatefold. But this one is just a regular sleeve, and what really made this was, if you can see there, the previous owner at some point had signed their name, and that person's name was also Gautam. So getting this LP was really just a wonderful coincidence, separated by about 50 odd years, 50 plus years. I think this came out in 70, 71. And yeah, just an amazing coincidence that or at least one of the previous owners was also named Gautam. Next, now Pink Floyd was huge in India. It still is, I think. But if you look at a certain demography, right, guys who are particularly 40 plus now, I think Pink Floyd was a formative band for them. And a lot of the albums were manufactured and pressed in India for sale. And I came across a couple of them recently. Now, Floyd is a band that took me a long, long time to get into. I think through most of my high school and college, it was always about finding the heaviest album you could find, finding the most extreme thing, and Pink Floyd was never really on my radar. It was only in maybe the last 10 or 15 years that I started getting into this band. But this is Atom Heart Mother. And this is, of course, Harvest, EMI Records, and authorized manufacturer is the Gramophone Company of India. But this one doesn't say Dum Dum anymore. This is what the back cover looks like in black and white. And if we look at the center label, there's your Harvest center label. And I'd say in my top 5 Pink Floyd albums, so this was a really cool find in Delhi, and probably something I wouldn't have bought if not for my wife being around and saying, "Yeah, go ahead, pick it up." So thank you, baby. And yeah, look at that. Also, it looks like the previous owner had maybe written down their name here and then tried to wipe it off with a wet cloth, probably. So you've got this little ink smudge over here, which is honestly, I mean, I don't mind. It's for a 50-year-old record. This came out 1971. This was pressed in India in 1971. 54-year-old record. I mean, it looks pretty cool. And I don't really have any problems with that smudge or the slight ring wear that you can probably see. I mean, damn, it's just something that I am super happy with. Next up, another Pink Floyd. Of course, Dark Side of the Moon, The Wall, Medal, I think it's also full of secrets. They all got pressed in India, and today they all go for ridiculous, ridiculous sums of money. I mean, upwards of 20,000, sometimes even higher. And the sad part is people actually, buy it at these rates, which is completely screwing up the market. But yeah, what can you do? You know, this is Pink Floyd Relics, and I'm guessing both these albums were owned by the same guy or girl, as the case may be, because here again you've got that big ink smudge. So I'm guessing they tried to take off the name that was written there. And this, of course, is the cover that was, I think, mainly meant for the North American market, which was US, Canada, and I think as the reissues started coming out, or rather as it got licensed in other areas, I think most of the Asian pressings had this cover rather than the black and white illustration, which was for the UK and Europe. But yeah, I mean, just a cool thing to have. I remember I used to see this on cassette when I was in high school, probably on HMV in the late 80s, but early 90s, and never really bothered to pick it up because, yeah, Pink Floyd, It was like uncle music, as we call it. But a bizarre collection of antiques and curios. This is the back and the same harvest label over here. Although originally released, I think 71 or 72, but I have no idea when this was actually released in India. And Discogs doesn't really seem to have a manufacturing date either. So your guess is as good as mine. But, but yeah, just another really cool thing to have. And unlike Adam Heart Mother, this one does say Dum Dum India. I don't know if that's a thing among collectors, but I just like the sound of it. Moving on to the 80s for a bit, and a really, really nice prog rock album. This is the third one by Marillion, Misplaced Childhood. This was released by, I think, again, yeah, the Gramophone Company of India, and probably pressed again in the same manufacturing plant in Calcutta. Lovely, lovely album. It's of course got Pseudo Silk Kimono, Kaylee, Lavender, Lords of the Backstage, Childhood's End. Just a lovely album. Maybe not as good as Fugazi, which I absolutely love, but yeah, really nice stuff. And Farzand, if you're watching, thank you for these LPs because I love them, man. And then, I always heard about mid 80s, late 80s at a burgeoning metal scene. And I guess one of those, how would you call it? Um, the proof of the pudding is in the eating, as they say. And this is a 1984 Indian pressing of Defenders of the Faith. So, yeah, I'm guessing if Judas Priest was manufactured and sold here, there must have been a metal scene around at that point as well. And yeah, just another cool record to have. And if we look at it, this one, of course, is CBS. Absolutely classic album, one of my favorites by Priest. Again, probably in my top five Priest albums. And an album that I like a lot more than Screaming for Vengeance as well. So, yeah, absolute classic. And I'm guessing because of the number of albums that got manufactured in India that Iron Maiden was another incredibly popular band. As far as I know, there was Killers, Somewhere in Time, Number of the Beast, and Power Slave, all manufactured here for the Indian market. And this one was honestly a complete shot in the dark because I saw the edges I had to tape up because they were, or rather the seams, as you can see there, because they were just about falling apart. Thankfully, the record is plays well, with hardly any background noise, which is surprising. But yeah, this was a complete shot in the dark because the seller hadn't really mentioned anything about what pressing it was, and it wasn't all that expensive either. It just looked like an older pressing, and I thought, let's try it out, let's take a chance. And yeah, it turned out to be an Indian pressing. So, another one that I am very, very happy about. Of course, the album itself, it's okay. I mean, I would say maybe my top 10 Maiden albums, not one of my absolute favorites. Back Back in the Village is a song I find quite annoying for whatever reason. But then it's got Aces High, 2 Minutes to Midnight. It's got Flash of the Blade. It's got, of course, Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner and the title song Power Slave. And all the lyrics are printed on the back sleeve. But yeah, really cool stuff. And then I know for a lot of collectors, the original Vertigo Swirl is kind of like this holy grail. And in India, the Vertigo imprint, I think the license was with Polydor, which was based out of Bombay. And again, a completely random buy, which was a Vertigo Swirl, was Nucleus. Now, Nucleus is a jazz fusion kind of band formed by Ian Carr in the 70s. This album, Snake Hips, etc., was more of had a bit more rock influence, I guess, maybe a little more funk influence as well. And Ian Carr, of course, led the band with the trumpet. And basically, you had piano, you had the saxophone, you had flutes, keyboards, and you know what I'm talking about here. Basically, again, if you ask the fans, this isn't a particularly great album by the band. I think the first album, Elastic Rock, is considered a classic, but this kind of music is really not in my wheelhouse anyway. And the only reason I bought this is for that Vertigo Swirl, right? And this was, yeah, like I said, 1975. But the strange part, or the funny part maybe, is that even as Vertigo moved away from the Swirl center label and moved on to the Spaceship and moved further into the 80s with other center labels, I don't think Polydor ever got the memo, and they just continued pressing everything on the Swirl. So if it's a Vertigo, so if it's an Indian Vertigo press, chances are that it's going to be a Swirl. So yeah, pretty cool to own, but not an album that I ever actually listened to. I think I may have played this once since I got it, which is a long, long time. But yeah, it's a keeper. Of course, all of the Dire Straits albums also got manufactured in India, and I think they're all on the Vertigo Swirl as well. Thin Lizzy, Black Rose, again manufactured by Polydor in Mumbai and Bombay, as it was called back then. And again, another swirl pressing, which is pretty cool to have. And finally, something I picked up from a store in Delhi. Again, thanks to my wife, a whole lot of writing on this. And Thin Lizzy, Jailbreak. Now, this year for Record Store Day, this cover was issued without the die cut sleeve that it always comes in, and as a special edition reissue, blah blah blah. But this is the cover that the album was released with in India back in the day, and this is again Vertigo. And if you look at it here, the previous owner for some reason has just boxed out the thin part of Thin Lizzy, and there's a little message here, I'm guessing, that says love with somebody's name. So I'm guessing this was a gift. But yeah, I mean, you know, I know a lot of people don't like writings on their used records, but man, each of these things tell a story, and I absolutely love it. This is, of course, yeah, another Vertigo Swirl. And that's about it. Just a shortish video. Well, it was going to be a short video, but now I think I'm hitting the 20-minute mark. But yeah, Indian pressings. I've got a few more. A lot of Queen was reissued. I've got jazz. I've got a whole lot of stuff from my dad's collection. And one thing to say about Indian pressings, I don't know how they did it, but they sound fantastic. I mean, Queen's jazz sounds absolutely amazing. The Floyd sound incredible, and yeah, it's just really, really good sounding, you know. And today now we've got pressing plants in India again. The Gramophone Company of India is currently owned by a company called Saregama and still based out of Calcutta. They have a vast collection of original recordings from Indian artists, but for whatever reason, their modern vinyl presses sound absolute garbage. So yeah, there's a been reissuing or at least tried to reissue a few classic Hindi movie albums, and yeah, they sound terrible. But these vintage pressings sound absolutely fantastic. And I think the engineers at those plants were maybe just better skilled. And I don't know what kind of stampers or mother plates or whatever you call them we used to get back then. But yeah, just great. And yeah, if you're in India or if you're coming to India and you want to crate dig or Delhi, Mumbai, some parts of Bangalore, you can still find a lot of English stuff. The sellers have mostly cottoned on to the fact that this is a booming market, if you will, and the prices are absolutely ridiculous. So, I mean, paying 20,000 plus, which is about 200 over $200 is ridiculous for a Dire Straits LP, and off actually for that matter any LP. So be prepared to bargain, be prepared to really get your hands dirty, and always just make sure you pull the LP out of the sleeve, take a look at the record, and make sure you're getting what is worth it, you know. And yeah, in Delhi you've got Shah Musical, which is in the older part of the city and a must visit if you want to crate dig. They've got really, really absolute gems in their collection. There's Kalagoda also in Delhi, which is a little more upmarket, a little more posh, and a little pricey. But yeah, the seller there knows the stuff, and there's some really good stuff that you can get there as well. And a few other places, online sellers who keep popping up now and then. But anyway, that's it for this episode of the Middle Aged Metalhead. Hope you found it interesting. Like, share, subscribe, and I will see you next time. Cheers, stay safe, stay metal.